My parents kicked me out to make room for my brother's dream after used me like an ATM, so I walked out and watched their world crumble without me. I'm a 27-year-old male, and up until a few months ago, I was basically an ATM for my entire family. It wasn't a role I signed up for, but somehow I ended up trapped in this situation for years. I finally hit my breaking point last Thanksgiving. Some backstory: I grew up in a lower middle-class neighborhood in Ohio. It was nothing fancy, just a regular 3-bedroom ranch house in the suburbs. My dad worked as a truck driver, usually gone 4 to 5 days a week on long hauls. My mom had a part-time gig at an insurance office doing admin work. We weren't poor enough to qualify for assistance, but we definitely had to watch our spending. No new clothes until the old ones had holes. No eating out unless it was someone's birthday, that kind of thing. I have an older brother, Ethan, a 30-year-old male who was the golden child. He was a baseball star in high school but peaked at 18 and never accomplished much after that. He got a partial scholarship to a state college, but dropped out after 2 semesters because the professors were out to get him. Then there's my little sister, Megan, a 19-year-old female, the baby of the family who somehow gets whatever she wants despite our supposedly tight finances. I was always the responsible one. I got decent grades, held down part-time jobs since I was 16, and went to community college for IT because it was what we could afford. I wasn't exceptional at anything, but I was reliable. Maybe that was my first mistake. Everything changed dramatically when Dad hurt his back in a loading accident 4 years ago. He was helping unload his truck when something slipped, and boom, 2 herniated discs. He claimed he was waiting for a workers' compensation settlement that never seemed to actually materialize. There was always some excuse: paperwork issues, lawyer problems, insurance company delays. I had just landed a decent IT job after finishing my associate's degree, making about $68,000 a year. It wasn't amazing money, but it was decent for someone my age in our area. When Dad's injury happened, I still lived at home, saving for my own place. I was paying $500 a month in rent to my parents, which seemed fair at first. I chipped in a bit extra here and there, grabbed groceries when the fridge was empty, and covered the electric bill when Mom mentioned it was overdue. Totally normal stuff that any decent son would do when his family hits a rough patch, right? But soon it morphed into something else entirely. Jake, the mortgage is due and we're short this month. Jake, the car payment is 3 days late. We need $420 by tomorrow. Jake, Megan needs a new laptop for school. Before I knew what was happening, I was dropping $2,500 to $3,000 every month on my family's expenses while still living in what was essentially my childhood bedroom. Meanwhile, Ethan had moved into the finished basement, which had its own bathroom and a separate entrance. He'd bounced between minimum wage jobs, never lasting more than a few months at any of them. He'd contribute nothing to household expenses, claiming he was building his music career, translation, playing guitar badly in his room and occasionally posting awful covers on YouTube. Mom and Dad never pressed him on it, just like they never commented on the weed smell constantly drifting up from the basement. Fast forward to this past Thanksgiving. We're all sitting around the table. Mom made the whole spread: turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes, the works. I had paid for all of it, of course, including the fancy organic turkey Mom insisted on getting. $85 for a bird. Are you kidding me? Dad was watching football on his phone between bites. Ethan was texting someone and ignoring everyone. Megan was posting Instagram stories of the food I'd paid for, with captions like "blessed" and "family time." I was exhausted from a brutal week at work, where I'd pulled 3 late nights fixing a server issue. All I wanted was to enjoy a meal I'd financed and maybe feel appreciated for once. That's when it happened. As I was reaching for another roll, Dad cleared his throat and announced, "Jake's been living here rent-free for too long now." I nearly choked. "Excuse me?" Mom nodded like this had been rehearsed. "We've been talking about this, honey. You're 27 now. It's time for you to get your own place and start living like an adult." I put down my fork before I stabbed someone with it. "What are you talking about? I pay rent. I've been paying rent." "Well, yes," Mom said. "But you stopped the regular $500 payments about 2 years ago." Was she serious? Because I started paying the mortgage instead. And the utilities, and the groceries, and basically everything else around here. Ethan snorted, not even looking up from his phone. "Dude, it's pathetic you're still living in Mom and Dad's house at your age. I'd literally die of embarrassment." This coming from the unemployed 30-year-old who hadn't contributed a dime to household expenses in his entire adult life. The basement comment was especially rich since he occupied the finished basement with its own mini fridge and TV setup, while I was in my old 10 by 12 bedroom with the same furniture I'd had since middle school. "I pay to live here," I said, my voice getting louder. "I pay more than what living here is worth." Dad waved his hand dismissively. "That's not the point. A man your age needs his own place. Your mother and I think it's time." I laughed, but it wasn't funny. Let me get this straight. I cover the $1,850 mortgage, the $300 electric bill, the $180 internet and cable package you insisted on for, your sports channels, groceries that run $900 a month because Ethan eats like a horse, and $3,000 toward Megan's community college, and I'm the one who needs to move out? What about him? I jabbed my fork in Ethan's direction. Your brother is going through a transitional period, Mom said defensively. His music career is about to take off. He just needs time. He's been transitional for 12 years, I said. When does he have to transition into being an actual adult? Ethan finally looked up from his phone. Screw you, man. Not everyone wants to be a corporate sellout drone like you. Dad pointed at me. Watch your tone. Your brother is following his passion. And anyway, this isn't about Ethan. This is about you needing your own space. My own space? I repeated in disbelief. Or you wanting my money without having to see my face every day? The table went silent. Dad's face turned red. Megan finally looked up from her phone, sensing drama worth paying attention to. How dare you, Mom said in a low voice. After everything we've done for you. What exactly have you done for me lately, I asked. Please enlighten me, because from where I'm sitting, I've been carrying this entire household for years while getting nothing but criticism in return. Mom sighed dramatically, giving me that condescending look she'd perfected over the years. No one's saying you don't help out, Jake, but this is about your independence. We're only thinking of what's best for you. Best for me, I nearly shouted. Or best for you? The table went silent again. Megan was recording everything on her phone now, probably for her stupid TikTok. That's when it hit me like a freight train. They hadn't thought once about what would happen after I left. They'd gotten so comfortable with me handling all the bills that they just assumed the money would keep coming in even after they kicked me out. They wanted me gone but still paying for everything. The audacity was breathtaking. I sat there, steam practically coming out of my ears, thinking about everything I'd given up for these people. When I graduated from community college, I had the opportunity to transfer to a 4-year university with a decent scholarship. I turned it down because Dad got injured that same month, and I needed to start working full-time to help out temporarily. My education was sacrificed on the altar of family responsibility. When my friends were renting apartments downtown, going to concerts, and taking weekend trips, I was giving 70% of my paycheck to my family. I drove a 12-year-old Honda with 180,000 miles on it because every time I saved for a new car, some emergency came up. Last year, I had $8,000 saved for a down payment on a decent used car. Then Megan needed $7,500 for a study abroad program in Spain that was critical for her development. Mom and Dad couldn't say no to her. They never could. So guess who paid for it? I turned down a promotion that would have required relocating because the family needed me here. That job would have bumped my salary to $82,000, but I declined it because Mom cried about how they couldn't manage without me nearby. I broke up with my last girlfriend because she got tired of never going anywhere since I couldn't afford to take her out after paying my family's bills. She said I was being used, and I defended my family to her. What a fool I was. 4 years of my life gone. 4 years of building my career, my savings, my independence, sacrificed for people who now had the audacity to call me a freeloader. I took a deep breath, trying not to flip the entire table. Fine, I said, my voice suddenly calm. Mom's face relaxed, thinking she'd won. I know it seems scary, honey, but this is good for you. We can help you look for an apartment this weekend. There's that complex by the mall that seems nice. I nodded slowly. Don't bother. I'll start packing tonight. For the first time that evening, uncertainty flickered across her face. Dad was too focused on the game score to notice the shift in the room, and Ethan just mumbled, "Pass the gravy." The least you could do is not hog all the food too. I spent the rest of the meal in silence, mentally calculating how much money I had in savings. Not much, thanks to years of family emergencies, and where I could possibly go. The irony wasn't lost on me. They wanted me to move out, but because of them, I barely had enough for a security deposit on an apartment. After dinner, Mom tried to corner me in the kitchen. "Jake, honey, don't be so dramatic. We can talk about a timeline that works for everyone." "A timeline that works for everyone?" I repeated. "You mean a timeline that ensures you still get my money for as long as possible?" She had the decency to look embarrassed at least. "That's not what I meant. It's just a big change, and we should plan it properly." "Oh, I'll plan it properly," I said. "Don't worry about that." I barely slept that night. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, a lifetime of being the responsible one, while being treated like crap playing through my head on repeat. The next morning, I got up early, not because I planned to, but because anger and resentment make for excellent alarm clocks. I dug out my duffel bags and started throwing in clothes, electronics, and important paperwork. I didn't have much furniture. The bed, desk, and dresser in my room all belonged to the house, according to my parents, even though I'd actually bought the desk myself when I started working remotely twice a week. I started calculating costs in my head. First and last month's rent somewhere would be at least $2,000. A security deposit, another $1,000. Moving costs, setting up utilities, basic furniture. I had about $4,300 in savings, which wasn't much after 4 years of working a decent job. That's what happens when you're supporting 5 people on one income. Around 11 in the morning, Megan appeared in my doorway, still in her pajamas despite it being almost noon. She was scrolling through her phone but looking at me periodically from the corner of her eye. "You're seriously leaving?" she asked, trying to sound casual but failing. I zipped up a bag with more force than necessary. That's what they wanted. She leaned against the doorframe. "Mom said you'd get over it by morning." I let out a bitter laugh. Of course she did. She thinks I'm just throwing a temper tantrum. I mean, kind of. "You were pretty dramatic at dinner," she continued, scrolling through her phone as she spoke, not even bothering to look at me. "Dramatic? Are you kidding me?" I stopped packing and faced her. "Megan, do you have any idea how much money I've put into this household? How much I've sacrificed?" She shrugged. "I know you help out sometimes." "Sometimes?" I said. "I pay for everything, including your college, by the way. That $3,000 per semester doesn't appear out of thin air." She finally looked up from her phone, her expression a mix of confusion and dawning realization. "Wait, I thought Mom and Dad were paying for my classes." "Nope, that's all me. Just like the trip to Spain last summer. Just like the new iPhone you got for your birthday. Just like everything else around here." She stood there awkwardly for a minute. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. She was still a teenager, trapped in this toxic household. But then I remembered how she'd maxed out the credit card I'd foolishly added her to as an authorized user for emergencies only, buying $600 worth of clothes online. When I confronted her, she just shrugged and said, "You can afford it." "But if you leave, how will they pay for everything?" she asked, and I could see the gears turning in her head. "If I wasn't paying for her college anymore, what would happen to her?" "That's a great question," I said. "Maybe ask Ethan to contribute for once. Or Dad could try actually following up on that workers' compensation claim he's been talking about for 4 years. Or Mom could work full-time instead of part-time. Lots of options that don't involve exploiting me." "You're being so selfish," she said, her voice hardening. "Family is supposed to help each other." And there it was, the family mantra that had been used to manipulate me for years. Family goes both ways, Megan. It's not one person giving everything while everyone else takes. That's not family, that's parasitism. Her eyes widened, and for a second I thought I might have gotten through to her. But then she just scoffed, turned around, and walked away, tapping furiously on her phone, probably texting her friends about what a jerk her brother was being. I went back to packing, feeling a strange mix of anger, relief, and fear. I had no idea where I was going or how I was going to afford it, but I knew one thing for certain: I wasn't staying here another day. By noon, I had most of my stuff packed into bags and boxes. I made multiple trips, carrying things out to my car, and not once did anyone offer to help. Ethan was still asleep in the basement. Mom was too upset to come out of her room. Dad was in the garage looking for something, which was his code for avoiding confrontation. On my last trip down the stairs with a box of books, Mom finally emerged from her bedroom, makeup perfectly applied despite her emotional distress. Her eyes went to my box, and her expression changed from practiced sadness to alarm. "Wait, you're actually leaving right now?" I stared at her. "Isn't that what last night was about?" She frowned. "Well, yes, but I thought we'd have time to, make arrangements." "I've made my arrangements," I lied. I had some money saved. Not much, but enough for a security deposit somewhere. I had a buddy who'd let me crash for a few days if needed. I'd figure it out. I pushed past her and headed for the front door. Just as I was about to step outside, Dad came in from the garage, hands surprisingly clean for someone who claimed to be rummaging around in there. "So, you're really doing this, huh? Running away when things get tough," he said, crossing his arms. I ignored him, balancing the box while trying to open the door. "Jake," Mom said, her voice taking on that fake sweet tone that always preceded a demand. "Before you go storming off, we need to discuss the household expenses." I turned back slowly. "What about them?" She spoke as if explaining something to a child. "Well, obviously we understand you're moving out, but we still need your help with the mortgage and utilities. You've been handling those for so long, and we just can't manage everything overnight. We thought you could send around $2,000 a month until we get things figured out." I stared at her in disbelief. Are you serious right now? She looked genuinely surprised at my response. There's no need for that tone. This is a reasonable request. We're your family. Dad stepped closer. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us? By leaving us high and dry? What kind of son does that? That's when Ethan finally made his appearance, shuffling up from the basement in sweatpants and a stained t-shirt. What's with all the noise? Some of us are trying to sleep. It was 12:30 in the afternoon on a Friday. Jake thinks he's too good for this family now, Dad said, shaking his head. Going to leave us to fend for ourselves while he goes and plays big shot. Ethan looked at me with contempt. Dude, that's cold. Mom and Dad gave you everything. I set the box down, afraid I might throw it at someone. They gave me nothing. I've been carrying this entire family for years while you sit on your ass playing video games and Dad watches sports all day instead of finding work. I'm injured, Dad shouted, pointing to his back. You think I want to be stuck at home? You think I don't want to be out on the road making money? I think it's convenient that your injury never seems to stop you from playing golf with Uncle Steve every Wednesday, I shot back. Or helping him move furniture last month. But somehow, it prevents you from getting any job at all for 4 straight years. Mom stepped between us. Stop it, both of you. This isn't helping. She turned to me, her expression softening into the manipulative look I knew all too well. Jake, honey, we're not asking for the world here. Just some help during the transition. You can still have your independence, your own place. We just need a little financial support until we adjust. How long is until you adjust? I asked. She hesitated. Well, until your father's settlement comes through, or until he's able to work again, or until Ethan's music career takes off. So, basically forever. Got it. No, I said, the word feeling strange and powerful in my mouth. I'm not giving you another dime. You ungrateful little, Dad started, stepping toward me. Mom put her hand on his arm. Don't, Robert. Then to me, Jake, please. We're not asking for everything, just enough to keep us afloat. You can afford it. You make good money. I make decent money that I work for, I said. And no, I can't afford to pay for 2 households. Not anymore. So that's it? Dad said. You're just going to abandon your family? Your mother who raised you? Your dad who put food on the table all those years? Your brother and sister who need you? I laughed outright. Oh, now I'm family? Now you acknowledge everything I've done? Funny how that only happens when you want something from me. Mom started tearing up, her go-to manipulation tactic. I'd seen it deployed on Dad, on teachers, on bill collectors, on anyone who wasn't giving her what she wanted. She daintily dabbed at the corner of her eye, careful not to smudge her mascara. Please, Jake, if you don't help us, we'll lose the house. They'll repossess the car. We could end up on the street. Not my problem, I said, surprising even myself with how cold my voice sounded. You made your choice last night. You wanted me gone, so I'm gone. This isn't what we meant, Mom cried, the tears flowing freely now. It's exactly what you meant, I snapped. You just didn't think through the consequences. You thought you could kick me out and keep taking my money. Well, guess what? It doesn't work that way. Dad's face was getting redder by the second. You listen here. No, you listen, I cut him off. For once in your life, you're going to hear me out. I have put my entire life on hold for this family. I've given up education, career advancement, relationships, any hope of building my own savings, all so you could maintain this facade of middle-class stability while doing absolutely nothing to contribute to it. And your response was to tell me I'm not welcome here anymore. They stared at me in shock. I'd never spoken to them like this before. I've enabled this dysfunctional situation for far too long, I continued. Well, it ends today. I'm leaving, and the Bank of Jake is officially closed. Figure it out yourselves. I picked up my box and headed for the door. Mom made one last desperate attempt. Jake, please, at least pay the mortgage this month just to give us time. I turned back one last time. You know what? I've got a better idea. I'll leave you with the same thing you left me with all these years. Nothing but empty promises and guilt trips. And with that, I walked out, slamming the door so hard the cheap decorative mirror in the hallway fell and shattered. Fitting, really. That first week was rough, not going to lie. I crashed at my buddy Mike's apartment for 5 days, sleeping on his couch and feeling like a complete failure despite knowing I'd made the right choice. Mike was cool about it. He'd met my family a few times and always said they treated me like crap, but I still felt like I was imposing. I spent every waking hour apartment hunting and budgeting. It was shocking to realize how much more affordable life could be when I was only paying for myself. Eventually, I found a studio I could afford, about 30 minutes from work. It was small, just 480 square feet with a kitchenette and a bathroom where you could practically shower while sitting on the toilet. But it was mine. No one asking for money. No one guilting me into paying for stuff that wasn't my responsibility. The first month, I turned off notifications for my family's numbers. The calls and texts were non-stop. The mortgage is due. The electric company sent a final notice. Dad needs his medication, each one more desperate than the last. I finally looked at them all one night after a particularly rough day at work. There were 47 texts and 23 missed calls over a 2-week period. The tone evolved from angry, "You're abandoning your family," to guilt-tripping. Mom cried all night, to desperate, "They're going to shut off the water," to threatening, "You'll regret this when you have no family left." I blocked their numbers after that. I needed to focus on rebuilding my own life, not continuing to be emotionally manipulated from afar. After a while, the attempts to contact me stopped. I figured they'd found another solution. Maybe Ethan finally got a job, or Dad's workers' compensation came through, or they'd found another relative to leech off of. Then, about 2 months after I'd left, I ran into my old neighbor, Mrs. Wilson, at the grocery store. "Jake, I haven't seen you in ages. How are you?" We chatted for a minute before she dropped the bomb. "Your family's having quite a rough time, from what I hear. The bank put a foreclosure notice on the house last week." I nodded, feeling a weird mix of guilt and satisfaction. "Is that so?" "Oh yes," she continued, apparently not noticing my lack of surprise. "Your mother's been telling everyone at church that you abandoned them, but between you and me, I always thought it was strange how you seem to be the only one working in that house. Your brother's car hasn't moved in weeks. I think it got repossessed. I saw your parents at the dollar store, buying ramen and mac and cheese in bulk." I felt a twinge of sympathy, especially for Megan, but then hardened my heart. They had made their bed, and now they were lying in it. When I got home, curiosity got the better of me, and I unblocked their numbers to check if there were any new messages. There were dozens from every member of my family, each more desperate than the last. From Dad, "The bank's taking the house. This is on you. How can you sleep at night knowing your family is being thrown out on the street?" From Mom, "Please Jake, we're begging you. We need $3,200 by Friday, or we'll be evicted. I know we've made mistakes, but please don't punish your sister for our errors." From Ethan, "You're dead to me, bro. Mom cries every night. Dad's back is worse from the stress. Hope you're happy in your fancy apartment while we're suffering." From Megan, "I had to drop out of college because we can't afford it. Thanks a lot. My entire future is ruined because you're being selfish." Each message was designed to hit me where it hurt, to trigger that lifetime of conditioning that said family comes first, that I was responsible for everyone else's well-being. But something had changed in me. I could see the manipulation now, plain as day. I didn't respond to any of them. The crown jewel came 3 months after I'd left, when Dad showed up at my apartment. I have no idea how he found my address, probably through a mutual acquaintance or by following me from work. I opened the door to find him standing there, looking like hell. He'd lost weight, his clothes were wrinkled, and he had dark circles under his eyes. "Jake," he said, his voice hoarse. "Can I come in?" I crossed my arms, blocking the entrance. Why? To talk, man to man. Against my better judgment, I stepped aside. He walked in, eyes darting around my small but clean apartment, taking in the modest furnishings I'd managed to acquire. A futon that doubled as my bed, a small dining table with 2 chairs, a TV stand with a 32-inch TV I'd found on sale. "Nice place," he mumbled, but I could hear the judgment in his voice. To him, this was probably pathetic compared to the 2,200 square foot house they were about to lose, the house I had been paying for. "What do you want, Dad?" He collapsed onto my futon without being invited. "We're screwed, son, completely screwed. The bank's taking the house next week. Your mother's a mess. She's lost 15 pounds and had to start taking anxiety medication. Ethan's girlfriend kicked him out when he couldn't pay his share of her rent, so he's been sleeping in his car. Megan had to move in with her friend's family because we can't afford to feed her anymore." I didn't respond. I just stood there, waiting for him to get to the real reason for his visit. "I know we made a mistake," he continued, his voice softening. "We didn't appreciate what you were doing for us. We took advantage. I can see that now. Your mother and I have talked about it a lot. We were wrong to treat you that way." I almost believed him, until he got to the real reason for his visit. "I'm here to make things right," he said, leaning forward. "If you come back, things will be different. We'll respect you more. We'll appreciate everything you do. You want me to move back in?" "Well, yes. And help with the finances again. Just until we get back on our feet." I started laughing. I couldn't help it. "What's so funny?" he demanded. "You haven't learned a thing, have you? You're not sorry for how you treated me. You're sorry you lost your meal ticket." His face hardened. "Look at what you've done to this family." "I didn't do anything to this family. You did. You and Mom and Ethan with your endless entitlement. I just stopped enabling it." "So, you're just going to let us become homeless?" he shouted. What kind of monster are you? That's when I decided to really twist the knife. Actually, I said, pulling out my phone, I've got something to show you. I opened my banking app and turned the screen toward him. The balance showed $42,836.45. His eyes widened. What the? That's what I've managed to save in just 3 months of not supporting you people, I said. 3 months. That's how much money you were bleeding from me. So, you do have the money, he exclaimed. You can save the house. I put my phone away. I can, but I won't. Because you don't deserve it. Jake, I've been thinking a lot about what happened. I cut him off. And I realized something. You never wanted me to move out because you thought it was time, or because it would be good for me. You wanted me out because you were embarrassed that your younger son was the provider. It hurt your ego that I was the man of the house in every way that counted. His face went red. That's not... It is. And you know what? It's not my job to save you from your own bad decisions anymore. I'm keeping my money, I'm building my life, and watching you finally face consequences is the best revenge I could have asked for. I stood up and walked to the door, opening it wide. Get out. He got up slowly, defeat evident in every movement. Your mother will be devastated. She'll survive, and if she doesn't, well, that's not my problem either. As he shuffled past me, he stopped for one last attempt. We're family, Jake. Blood. I looked him dead in the eyes. Not anymore. I slammed the door behind him and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Complete and total peace. It's been 6 months now. I heard through the grapevine that they lost the house and had to move into a crappy 2-bedroom apartment in the bad part of town. Dad finally got a job at a gas station, working the register. Guess his back miraculously healed when actual homelessness was on the line. Mom's working full-time at the insurance office now. Ethan had to take a job at a warehouse, loading trucks. Ironic, given Dad's injury. Megan's working at McDonald's instead of going to college. Meanwhile, I got that promotion I turned down years ago. My boss actually sought me out, saying they still needed someone with my skills and would I reconsider relocating. I'm making $88,000 now, with better benefits. I bought a decent used Mazda. I started dating again. Nothing serious yet, but it's nice to go out for dinner without worrying about whether I'll have enough left over to pay someone else's credit card bill. I'm taking a vacation to Colorado next month, my first actual vacation in years. I'm going to hike in the mountains, try some local craft beers, and not think about my family at all. Sometimes I feel a twinge of guilt, especially about Megan. She's young, and a lot of her entitled attitude was learned from watching our parents. But then I remember how none of them ever showed an ounce of appreciation for what I did, how they treated me like an ATM instead of a person, and the guilt vanishes. Megan reached out last week. Apparently, she broke up with her boyfriend and needed a place to stay. Guess where she thought she could crash, just until she finds a new apartment? Yup, with me. I offered to help her look for affordable housing and roommate situations instead. She called me a jerk and hung up. Some things never change.